Good morning, everybody, distinguished judges and members of the audience. I am Rashmalee Peris from the undergraduate program of Degree of Advanced Diploma in General Nursing. And today my research is on the assessment of knowledge regarding the importance of infant nutrition amongst an urban Sri Lankan community. So these are my key contents for my research today. And so getting into my research, this picture and this are pictures taken from a booklet which is given to all parents, mothers especially, at the time of birth in hospitals in Sri Lanka. This is a UNICEF and WHO guaranteed booklet which includes all information about infant nutrition and its uses. So, infant nutrition is considered extremely important in facilitating optimal growth and development of the child. Although the global and guidelines provide extensive recommendations, the actual knowledge on the urban mothers regarding the same remains unknown. Therefore, it leads to the objective of my research, which is to assess the knowledge that the community has, which includes the mothers of infants, about the importance of infant nutrition. So my methodology for my research was a quantitative descriptive cross-sectional study assessing 135 adult Sri Lankan females living in the urban community. And my exclusion criteria were women aged below 18 years and above 50 years. And my method of collection of data was an online questionnaire and an interviewer-administered questionnaire. So getting into the results of my research, the majority of my research of the 125 population, 61% were aged below 25 years, with a level of education, with the highest level of education being GCE. And 81% of my population were unmarried females with no children. Although the majority of my research were unmarried and had no children, 42% knew that the exclusive period of breastfeeding being 6 months was 6 months. 42% knew this period, this exclusivity. And unfortunately though, as per the guidelines again, it says that the first type of food to be provided to a child once weaning starts is semi-solid food. 68.4% mentioned it as liquid food. And also, there is not a very significant correlation between the first type of food introduced to a child and the number of children, because it still remains as liquid food being the choice to be provided to the infant. But very contrastingly though, although most people said that liquid food is their first choice to be provided to an infant, most people chose mashed rice as their first choice, as their food item to be provided to the baby once weaning starts. Interesting to know is, mashed rice is of a semi-solid consistency. And fortunately, the age at which solid food is to be introduced remained at 1 year, and the age at which biscuits were introduced remained at 1 year as well, the majority being 40% and 47.8% respectively. And the number of children with versus the age of independent eating also remain the same at 1 year, which is usually what happens here is that what they say, the guidelines say, is that you should encourage the child to get the feel of food at about 10 to 11 months. Because this is the time that the child uses the whole gripping and they begin to explore. But it's a Sri Lankan concept that we want to pamper our children, we want to do everything for them. So hence, the age of independent eating is also pushed forward to 1 year. And there is no significant correlation between the educational level and the first type of food to be introduced and the age of independent eating. Although whether you were a graduate or whether your highest level of education was GCE level, everyone said that it has to be either that the age of independent eating is 1 year, and the first type of food introduced is still liquid food. So getting into the discussion of the findings, a summary of my findings, the majority, though being unmarried females with no children, knew about the basics of infant nutrition, and the awareness on breastfeeding was fairly satisfactory. And most mothers knew about the contents of weaning food. However, their texture and its role in development seemed poor. Speaking a little bit about the role of about nutrition in the infant life, it is the first 2 years of any person's life is considered the most important, because this is where the most amount of development happens for both the brain and the body. When you speak about the brain specifically, most amount of the synapses and everything all development happens, most of it happens during the first 2 years. So whatever you provide during the first years of life, that correlates and that directly helps in the further development. Then also, most of them didn't allow the babies to eat on their own until they were at least 1 year old, and many introduced processed food such as biscuits early. This is because when you tend to have more children, and when you have older children with another baby, whatever you provide the older child, the younger one tends to follow suit and nibble on. Hence, they begin to grow a palate towards artificial and processed foods such as biscuits very early on in life. So as my recommendations from this research is that awareness should be increased on the content, timing, and the practices of infant feeding. Also, it is better to increase awareness on the importance of rapid brain development as well, as I mentioned before, about the most amount of development happening during the first years of life. Since most mothers are young, aged below 25 years of age, the social media campaigning targeting urban Sri Lankan mothers would be appropriate in achieving the aforementioned pointers, because we live in an age where we are so attuned to social media and it comes as second nature to us. So thank you. So I would like to thank everyone who helped me with this project, especially my supervisor, Ms. Madhurika, and Dr. Nishan. Also, this project was made possible by friends and family. So these are my references. Thank you very much.